But this is the first time that I knew I really disappointed my son.
At the age of 42, Busta Rhymes was at the highest peak of his career. It was 2012, and it felt like nothing could bring this man down. But then, the unthinkable happened, and there was complete silence from Busta. No new music, nothing. This man had disappeared, and while a massive loss is what triggered this disappearance, there's a lot more to this than you know. There's a lot to unpack here, and to truly understand what went wrong, we've got to go all the way back to the beginning. Busta was born with the name Trevor George Smith Jr. on May 20th, 1972, in Brooklyn's East Flatbush neighborhood. He came from Jamaican roots, thanks to his parents, Geraldine Green and Trevor Smith Sr. When he was just 12, the Smith family packed up and moved to Nassau County on Long Island, settling in Uniondale, New York. Busta's early years had already set him up for greatness. He attended George Westinghouse Career and Technical Education High School in Brooklyn, rubbing shoulders with future legends like Christopher, the Notorious B.I.G., Wallace, and Sean Jay-Z Carter. Later, he transferred to Samuel J. Tilden High School, where he was classmates with Edward Special Ed Archer and Roderick Chip Fu Roachford from Few Schnickens. Busta finally graduated from Uniondale High School in 1991, setting the stage for his rise to stardom. Interestingly, Busta also spent some time in the United Kingdom during the early 1980s. He lived with his maternal aunt in Morecambe for a couple of summers, attending Skirton Community High School. Now, he wasn't just chilling and wasting time. He and his younger brother were breaking it down at karate school and even getting gigs as breakdancers in clubs, all while they were still minors. They were known as TJ and Paul, running the scene with their cousins. By the time it was 1986, Busta, alongside Charlie Brown, Cut Monitor Milo, and Dinko D, formed the East Coast hip-hop group, leaders of the new school. They appeared on the mainstream scene with their first album, A Future Without a Past, in June of 1991. The second album of the group, named TIME, The Inner Mind's Eye, was released in 1993. The dissimilarities in the rapping style and the complex lyrics Busta was already employing saw him ascend to the limelight. However, the conflicts within the group escalated, and they disbanded on the set of Yo MTV Raps. Nevertheless, this did not stop Busta from coming up with the following. He was the go-to man for rhyming on everyone else's records, grinding to pay the bills and support his child until he was ready to release his own album. And in 1996, he did that with The Coming. His single, Woo-Ha, Got You All in Check, became a hit for the album, making it go gold. To be precise, Busta was officially on fire. The second album followed in September 1997 with the title, When Disaster Strikes. From this album, he proved himself in the rap scene, but he didn't stop there. In 1998, Busta dropped Extinction Level Event, The Final World Front, which was another progressive music record. In 2000, Busta released his last album with Elektra, which was the Anarchy album. This was very significant as it was a period of change. But was Busta going to slow down yet? Nope. From the year 1998 to 2000, Busta released 4 albums, which included the albums The Coming, When Disaster Strikes, Anomaly, and Big Boombox. In 2001, he released what he called the Genesis album with features from Mary J. Blige, P. Diddy, and Kellis. Then, in 2002, Busta released his 6th studio album titled It Ain't Safe No More. Continuing the success trend, Busta released his 7th studio album, The Big Bang, in 2006. The record was his first #1 album. It debuted with over 209,000 copies sold in the first week. And then there was Back on My BS in 2009, released through Universal Motown. This album stirred some major controversy, especially in the UAE, where it got banned due to the track Arab Money. The controversy exploded, with DJs debating its offensiveness and Busta eventually apologizing. Later in 2010, Busta announced he was working on The Chemo, his 9th studio album. However, he changed the title to Extinction Level Event 2, a sequel to his 1998 masterpiece. Meanwhile, Busta was all over the place, collaborating with Tech Nine on Worldwide Choppers and Justin Bieber on Drummer Boy. He even paid tribute to Heavy D with You Ain't Gotta Wait Till I'm Gone. By November 2011, Busta made headlines by signing with Cash Money Records. He dropped the single Can You Keep Up with Twista and featured on Fat Joe's Pride and Joy with Kanye West and Jadakiss. His 9th album, Year of the Dragon, was released for free on Google Play in 2012, featuring a star-studded lineup including Lil Wayne, Rick Ross, and Trey Songz. Now this is where things started to get slow. After his 9th album, it took Busta 8 whole years to come out with his next one. In 2020, Busta released Extinction Level Event 2, The Wrath of God, on October 30th. The album was full of fire and fury.
Coming off an ELE 2 album, we was speaking directly to what was happening. We was in the pandemic, the protesting was happening, the riots, the George Floyd murder, and all of it was too much dark energy, but it was necessary at the time.
It was a comeback everybody had been waiting for, but nobody knew about the struggles that Busta was facing behind the scenes. First off, there was his increasingly disturbing personal life. During an interview for Hip Hop Beyond Beats and Rhymes, Busta walked out when asked about homophobia in the rap community. He straight up said that he can't partake in that conversation and made it clear that his cultural beliefs don't condone homosexuality. But when he was pushed further, he just exited the interview. A little while later, Busta showed a different side. In a later interview with MTV News, he voiced his support for Frank Ocean after he came out, and even expressed general support for cultural acceptance of homosexuality. This was a tough call in his position, but Busta always wanted to be on the right side. Then came his legal run-ins, which became one of the many reasons that Busta basically just disappeared. In December 1998, Busta got arrested for having an unregistered gun during a routine traffic stop in NYC. 2 years later, in October 2000, he got 5 years probation for it. Then, in August 2006, after the Amsterdam Music Festival on Randall's Island, he got into it with a guy who spat on his car. Busta was charged with third-degree mistreatment. And just when you thought it couldn't get crazier, in October 2006, they tried to tack on a weapons charge for a machete found in his car, but the judge wasn't having it. February 2007 rolled around, and Busta was back in court. He refused a plea deal for mistreating his former driver, Edward Hatchett. The prosecutor wanted him to do 6 months in jail, but Busta wasn't okay with that. The judge then gave him another option: plead guilty to third-degree mistreatment, do some community service, youth lectures, anger management, and get 3 years probation. You'd think that it was going to stop there, right? Well, in May 2007, Busta got arrested again, this time for driving without a license and while impaired. By March 2008, he was sentenced to 3 years probation, 10 days community service, and some fines. And then, in September 2008, the UK temporarily denied him entry due to unresolved convictions. Beyond this point, not only was there a break in his career, but his legal issues also stopped for a while. The next scandal didn't come in until 2018, when Busta got hit with plagiarism accusations. Bernardo Lanzetti and his band Aqua Fragile claimed that Busta's 2001 track Genesis used an uncredited sample from their song Cosmic Mind Affair. Negotiations went south, and Lanzetti decided to sue. These issues were troubling and caused a lot of strain on Busta's life. One could imagine that the man was burnt out and just needed a break to move away from the industry and its toxicity. But that wasn't the whole reason. We're yet to discuss the major reason behind Busta's downfall back in 2012. You see, 2012 was the year his manager and best friend, Chris, passed away. Now, Chris wasn't just any manager, he was Busta's brother in arms. They had a bond that went beyond business. It was personal, deep, and irreplaceable. So Busta was left standing in the rubble of his life, trying to figure out how to move forward without Chris. He was lost, completely thrown off course. For a minute, he couldn't see the path ahead. Why? Because Chris wasn't just the brains behind his career. He was the rock Busta leaned on. Losing Chris meant Busta was now steering the direction of his career alone, and that was simply terrifying for him. He couldn't get it together, so there were no new records for 9 whole years. He just didn't feel right, but on top of that, he also didn't have the right team. However, it wasn't just the career management part that got him. Psychologically, Busta was shattered. The confidence, the comfort, the support, all of it vanished with Chris. Busta had to wear all the hats, do all the jobs, and it just wasn't the same. Chris was a master at what he did, and Busta knew he couldn't match that. As if losing Chris wasn't enough, 2 years later, Busta's father passed away as well. The worst part of it all was that he had just made peace with his dad, but before they could enjoy their reconciled relationship, his dad was gone. Busta was hit with the realization of all the wasted time spent not getting along. It was downright devastating. The pain drove Busta to some dark places. Overworking, overdrinking, smoking, you name it. He did it to drown the pain. He gained a lot of weight and went up to 340 pounds. The man wasn't built to carry that kind of load, and it showed. Looking back at photos from that time, he could see the darkness, the marks on his face, the weight of his grief physically manifesting. His body showed every bit of his internal sadness. He wasn't sleeping, wasn't eating right, and it took a toll. He ended up with sleep apnea, needing a machine to help him breathe at night. It got so bad, he once drank himself into such a deep sleep that his son and security had to wake him up. Astonishingly, it took them 45 minutes to get him to wake up. The next day, his son, with all the love and fear in his heart, sat him down and laid it out. He needed Busta to listen because he was too scared to lose his dad. This was the pivotal moment that made Busta turn his life around. His son, who's always looked up to him like a superhero, finally spoke up. And this wasn't just any talk, this was a life-altering, heart-wrenching conversation. His son had never talked to him like this before, and Busta realized that he was trying to protect his dad's feelings, but he had to get it off his chest. Busta realized that he had let his son down. All the mightiness and the larger-than-life persona of Busta Rhymes couldn't shield him from this raw truth. His son had seen him hit rock bottom, and this was the wake-up call he desperately needed. This moment messed him up really badly and shook him to his core. The next day, Busta found himself at the doctor's office, and he couldn't breathe properly. Once the doctor checked him out, they realized that 90% of his breathing passage was blocked. The doctor spelled it out clearly. If Busta caught a cold, he could die in his sleep that very night. This was the reality check he needed to get his priorities straight. The doctor actually wanted to call an ambulance, but Busta refused, and he had to sign a waiver saying he'll take the risk. This is when Busta realized just how serious things have gotten. So he got on the phone with his son and told him to meet him at the hospital. His son, terrified, admitted that he thought Busta was gonna die last night. He was begging his dad to stop drinking, stop smoking, and get back to being the dad he knew and loved. This plea is what truly motivated him to change and leave all of his old ways behind. Busta had made up his mind. He was getting this surgery. He was going to transform his life. On the way home, he saw Dexter Jackson, a bodybuilder legend, in his Instagram stories, rapping to Busta's own track. Busta slid into his DMs, and next thing you know, Dexter was inviting him to Jacksonville for a hardcore 30-day training regimen. Busta didn't hold back. He rented a mansion, brought along a whole team including a cameraman, a chef, a masseuse, and even his recording engineer. It was an all-out transformation. 30 days later, he was 27 pounds lighter and feeling like a new man. Thanks to the incredible trainers, including Dexter Jackson and Victor Munoz, Busta had gotten back on track. With his health, mind, and spirit aligned, Busta was proud of who he saw in the mirror. His kids were proud too. They were seeing the real Busta, the dad they knew and loved, stronger than ever. Then, in 2020, Busta chose to do something spectacular. Throughout his career, this rapper has been talking about everything from man-made pandemics and holy wars to hidden government conspiracies and fiery racial awakenings. But for most of his fans, nothing has hit as hard as his 1998 masterpiece, Extinction Level Event, Final World Front. This album got Busta 3 Grammy nominations and quickly went platinum. So, after almost a decade away from the commercial spotlight, Busta made a thunderous return with Extinction Level Event 2, The Wrath of God. This album is not just a follow-up to the previous masterpiece, it's a prophecy fulfilled. Busta worked a lot on this album, pulling out insane samples like Melba Moore's bluesy rendition of The Thrill Is Gone, and the original 16-track master of Michael Jackson, and the Jackson 5's I'll Be There. And he didn't do it alone either. He also got old friends like Mary J. Blige, and new legends like Kendrick Lamar to drop in for the album's most epic moments. The guest list on this new album was absolutely star-studded with the likes of Chris Rock, Mariah Carey, Anderson .Paak, and even Louis Farrakhan. But Busta was the North Star of this epic journey. The biggest concern that people had after his long break from the industry was how he'd managed to catch up with how the hip-hop industry had progressed. The truth is that despite being on a break, Busta was always watching, always learning. He'd seen how hip-hop had become the secret sauce in every genre out there. You just couldn't drop a track without sprinkling in some hip-hop vibes if you wanted it to hit hard. Whether it was to get traction or fit into an algorithm, hip-hop was the lifeblood of modern music. But that came with its own set of challenges. The genre's strength was tested as melodies crept into rap, and rappers started singing entire songs. The lines between R&B and hip-hop blurred, and artists like Trey Songz and Nayo, who were once the kings of melody, were now sharing the stage with rappers like Roddy Ricch and Pop Smoke, who'd gotten the melody game on lock. Chris Brown had always been a hip-hop hip-hop chameleon, so he managed to fit in seamlessly. In Busta's opinion, artists of the 2020s had become fearless. They were not afraid to experiment, to blend styles, and break boundaries. I'm noticing that artists are a lot freer now, unafraid to try different expletive, different musical styles. Busta reminisced about his own come-up, pulling influences from bop jazz, punk, metal, dancehall reggae, and dub. It was all about being different and pushing the envelope. That was important for me as an artist coming up, trying to be different, looking or diverse influence, and getting pushback for it. That's always going to happen. That's evolution. While talking about it, Busta gave a lot of credit to everyone who was part of the first ELE album 22 years ago, and is still here to join him on ELE 2. He was super thankful to God for that. Not many artists were lucky enough to have all the original ingredients that made them great still available to them.
I just felt like I needed to speak to both generations real quick.
The only one missing was the legendary J Dilla, but even he was part of this project in spirit. Busta made a promise to Dilla's family to keep his name alive in the culture, and he had a stash of Dilla's beats that he was using to keep that promise. Now, Busta's so selective with these Dilla beats that the only other artist he'd shared them with was Raekwon, who made Busta the executive producer of Only Built for Cuban Links Part 2. That experience guided Busta in making ELE 2, showing him that it's about moving the feeling forward, not redoing the past. The producers from ELE 1 never abandoned their iconic sound, which was crucial for Busta. They'd preserved the essence of what made ELE great, while adding a fresh vibe to ELE 2. Here's a little secret. The first beat you hear after the End of the World intro with Chris Rock talking is a 22-year-old beat from the first album that never got used. Busta's mission with ELE 2 was to pick up where he left off with the first album, capturing that exact moment in time, but with a new twist. Without question, there is no more appropriate time than now to release ELE 2. The responsibility to social awareness and social challenge that I take on required that I do this. It wasn't about recreating ELE 1, it was about time traveling, getting some answers for the present, and reigniting that feeling. That was the most exciting challenge for him. That first extinction level event is out there. You can't redo that. We're just doing some time traveling, maybe get some answers for the present. I just want that feeling again. That was the most exciting challenge. Now, ELE 2 came with these massive proclamations, but it also had some tender moments. Busta gave Mary J. Blige and Kendrick Lamar their hottest tracks in ages with You'll Never Find Another Me and Look Over Your Shoulder. These songs didn't fit the end times narrative, but were deeply personal and powerful. The most personal track out of all of these was Best I Can. This song was raw, real, and straight from Busta's heart. He'd lived every single word, battling through hell with the mother of his 3 boys to keep his family together. Busta talked about the struggles of being a good father as a black man in a society that's set up to see him fail. It's a truth stranger than fiction, more harrowing than any apocalypse he could portray. Busta got so much better that he celebrated the 25th anniversary of his debut album, The Coming, in 2021.
Presence, when you step in a room, it's like you just control a room without even having to utter a word.
In late 2023, he was back with his 11th studio album, Busta, featuring a lineup that could make anyone's jaw drop. The love and support he got from his family and friends, like Pharrell Williams, Swizz Beatz, and Timbaland, helped produce this new album and lift him up. Right after Busta started forward on his next album, The Next Generation, which was a powerhouse blend of experience, life stories, and some seriously fresh talent. After All-Star 2020 comeback album Extinction Level Event 2, The Wrath of God, there's now Busta, made with a triumvirate of blue-chip executive producers, Pharrell, Timbaland, and Swizz Beatz. Busta has always been a legend, but this time he was doing something different. He was bringing in young, up-and-coming artists who he'd never worked with before. You might be wondering why. Well, Busta had 2 solid reasons. First, he was not buying into that old narrative that older MCs don't respect the new generation. That's a load of bull, at least for him and the artists he rolls with. They're all about lifting up the new guys, just like how they were lifted up back in the day. Busta recalled how legends like Chuck D, Big Daddy Kane, and De La Soul took him under their wings, showing him the ropes, giving him game, and helping him become the icon he is today. It's only right, he says, to do the same for the next wave of artists. And let's not forget, Busta's a fan of these new artists. They inspire him, keep him sharp, and push him to stay at the top of his game. He sees them paying homage, rocking hairstyles and heavy jewelry just like he did back in the day. He wants them to know that he sees them, respects them, and is here to guide them. Whether it's in the studio or the corporate boardroom, Busta's got their back. But here's the thing, it's not just about mentorship. Busta wants to share the love. He's a fan of what these new artists are doing, and he wants them to know it. He believes that the future of music is brightest when the past and present come together. Now, Busta has decided that he is not putting his flame out anytime soon. He's 33 years deep in the game, still selling out shows, still dominating arenas. And now, he's bringing these young guns along for the ride. Blessed with one of the most plastic and fantastic flows in all hip-hop, capable of explosive streams of high-speed syllables, gently crooned choruses, and everything in between, Busta Rhymes is one of the genre's great icons. He has completely left the past behind. At this point, Busta's confidence is at an all-time high. Busta's all about the over-the-top presence. When he walks into a room, he doesn't need to say a word. He just owns it. It's more than just a cultural thing for him. It's historical. He points out that black people have never been cavemen. They come from civilization, the richest parts of the planet. Busta now wears jewelry that his ancestors believed in being buried with, passing down their knowledge, wealth, and bling to future generations. He works hard and treats himself because he deserves it. No shortcuts. Busta's journey hasn't been easy, and you've all probably realized that by now. He's been through highs and lows, and he shared those moments with people like Ebro Darden.
What rapper come here? They can't share these stories.
Yeah.
This is friendship. This is brothers.
Busta remembers shedding tears in front of Ebro, proud of making his kids proud. Those moments of vulnerability and triumph define him. When he sees Ebro, it's more than just a hug. It's a connection built on shared experiences. They've been through the mud together. No political filters needed. Their friendship is real. No need for pretense. Overall, Busta's grateful for these relationships that have survived the test of time. They've had disagreements, but they always find a way to move past them, understanding and respecting each other's perspectives. One memorable moment was when they couldn't get into a whiz kid dinner at Madison Square Garden. Instead, Busta and Ebro vibed outside the restaurant, reminiscing and connecting deeply. Ebro's child, named Esau, blew Busta's mind. In the 5% nation, Esau is Jesus in the Bible.
Culturally, this ain't a style thing. This is a way of life thing. I like leading the new.
The name choice sparked a deep conversation, showcasing the depth of their bond. Just like that, Busta didn't just make a comeback in his career. He also made a massive comeback in his personal life, building brand new connections with the ones around him. He has now delved deep into the world of rap and hip-hop, and from here on, it's only uphill for him. If you enjoyed this video, click on the ones showing on your screen now to watch similar content.